Good evening, everyone. Welcome. And we will start the prayer firstly on the page 9, the refuge, and prayers on next page. And after that, we will do the Heart Sutra in Sanskrit. In Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, I take refuge until enlightened teach. By the merit of listening to these teachings, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings. May all living beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and a cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separated from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings leave attachment and hatred towards near ones afar, but living with equanimity. May all living beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May all living beings be free from sorrow and the cause of sorrow. May all living beings not be separated from the bliss that is sorrowless. May all living beings live attachment and hatred towards near ones afar, but living with equanimity. In accordance with Buddhist position and intelligence of sentient beings, we request you to turn the Dharma wheel of greater, lesser, and common vehicles. With the brilliance of your wisdom, O compassionate one, illumine darkness, ignorance, and closing my mind, enlightenment, intelligence, and wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and texts. So now we chant Heart Sutra in Sanskrit, page number emptiness. Because 4, one before is 4, one after is 5, so it's correctly emptiness. Is it yours unnumbered too?
Yeah, it's 4.5.
4.5, is it? It's neither 4 nor 5. That's what. Evam maya shrutam ekasamin samaye bhagavan rajagrihe viharati sma gridakute parvate mata bhikshu sangena sardam madaja bodhisattva sangena tena kalu samayena bhagavan gambhirava sambodham nama samadhim samapana tena ja samayena aryavalokiteshvaro bodhisattva mahasattva gambhirayam prajna paramitayam charyam charamana evam devalokayati sma panchaskandastam shacha svabhava sunyam eva lokayati ayusman jariputro buddhanubhavena aryavalokiteshuram bodhisattvam hetadavocha yakasya kulaputrava kuladuhita gambhirayam prajya paramitayam charyam chartukama katham shikshitva evam hukta aryavalokiteshvaro bodhisattva mahasattva ayusmandam shariputram etadavocha yakasya jariputra kulapudrova kuladuhita va gambhirayam prajya paramitayam charyam chardukamasa yena eva veva lokayati vyam pancha skandastam shacha svabhava shunyan samanupashyati sma iha shariputra rupam shunyata eva rupam rupanna prithai shunyataya na pritha rupam yarupam sai shunyataya shunyata darupam evam eva vedana sanjana sanskara vijnanam iha shariputa sarvadharma shunyata lakshana anutpana niruddha mala vimala anana paripurna tasma jariputra shunyatayam narupam na vedana na sanjana na sanskara na vijnanani na chakshu shrota grina jiva kaya manam shina rupam shabda gandha rasa swastavya dharmana chakshudartu yavanna manodatu na vidya shayo yavanna jaramaranam shayo na dukkha samudaya nirodha marga na jnanam na praptitvam tasma chariputra praptitvena bodhisattvanam prajna paramitam ashitaya viharati chitavarana nasti tvadaraso vivarasati kantro nista nirvana tvadvaya vyavastita sarva buddha prajna paramitam ashitaya nutaram samya sambodhim visambodha tasma agyadvaya prajaparamita mahamantro mahavidya mantro anutaro mantro asamasama mantra sarvadukha parashamana mantra satyam amitavot prajna paramitaya mukto mantra tadyatha gate gate vargate varasangate bodhi swaha evam shariputra gambhirayam prajna paramitayam charyayam shikshitvam bodhisattvena atakalu bhagavan tasma samadhir Vyutarya avalokite shurasya bodhisattvasya sadhu karamadat sadhu sadhu kulaputra evam eda kulaputra evam eda gambirayam prajya paramidayam charayam chardvyam yatha dvaya nirdisam odadye tathagadye arhadve edam avocha bhagavan anandamana ayusman chariputra aryavalokete surasya sodhisattva sacha sarvavati parsat sadeva manvasura gandharvasya loke bhagavato vasitam avinandan iti praja paramita hirda shrutam samatam. So, in this term, we are looking at analytical meditation, which means the teachings of the Buddha, when heard or read, we're not just listening or reading, but we are actually analyzing, we are reasoning, we're not accepting everything as we hear or read them, we are using our reasoning. And if we did that, then it becomes a form of meditation. Meditation isn't just closing your mind or calming your mind and focusing on one thing. So the one-pointed meditation could be that, but analytical meditation could be very reasoning mind that is reasoning, because when we reason, we see the truth more clearly. Even one-pointedness is simply an environment for the mind to be very clearly analytical, to see the things very clearly. Like calm abiding is one-pointed meditation, special insight is analytical meditation. Analytical could not occur very handsomely unless you have a very conducive one-pointed mind that is calm. So in that calm, peaceful mind, then you choose a topic and then focus and meditate on that and try to gain some kind of validation through reasoning, thinking, and you can call it meditating. In the past 6 sessions, we have looked at 6 specific topics. First night we looked at the Buddha nature, and then second night we looked at the triple gem, that the Buddha nature is that the good, basic goodness that all beings have, what we call Buddha potential, or the potential to be light and stay and become manifest light. Right now we are not quite manifest, but we are light, we are good. And so Buddha nature is looking at what are the characteristics that we endow Buddha nature. What is the benefit of us having the Buddha nature and its awareness is that we actually see good in everyone. Then we are not so amplifier of the bad that we see. The bad are temporal obscurations, and they can be deconditionable. The deconditionability of the obscuration shows that there is nothing that is originally bad, originally sinful, as it may be termed from other angles. But instead there is intrinsically good in everyone. So that's a very important meditation, particularly from the Mahayana Buddhist angle. And then one who has Buddha nature, but if they don't cultivate it, then their Buddha nature remains dormant. And so it doesn't become cultivated. Like the seed that is kept in a jar may remain seed, but until it meets with the right circumstances, it doesn't grow. Likewise, not all sentient beings are blessed to cultivate consciously in the particular lives they have. But only blessed, precious human rebirth in a time where people can actually access triple gem and know who the triple gems are, their qualities, and then by taking deliberate act to cultivate the seed, by taking refuge in the triple gem, then it becomes a cultivated Buddha nature. So that's why the second topic was meditating on the qualities of the triple gem, and then try to reason the need to cultivate Buddha nature. Like the seed that is not cultivated doesn't do much, even with itself, let alone to others. Likewise, the seed that is comes out of the jar and goes into the soil, then grows in abundance and many benefit many. So likewise, taking refuge, which is taking refuge in the triple gem, germinates the seed and then make it grow. And I'm sure people are feeling that growth in the heart, kindness and goodness and tolerance and qualities of tolerance, virtue of forgiveness. These are more experienced by people who have refuge. Who have refuge means who decide to practice safety by accepting the Buddha and his timeless teachings, wisdom, and you adopt that as one's philosophy, one's motto of living. On top of food and drink and other things as well. You will still will eat and drink and clothe and shelter, but you want the actual contents in the intellect that actually makes you to have a particular way of viewing, assessing, and relating to the world and sufferings and problems. So we meet. So, and then we find a lot safer when we think along the lines of the Buddha Dharma. We have a very safe way of relating to everyone and everything. And then looks like we have refuge. Looks like we have an umbrella in the rain. Like we have a shelter, not become exposed to extreme elements of hate, of anger, and jealousy, and negative reactions, and avenging activities. And we've been there so many times, and we see no point going to that direction. We feel safe. The teaching is constantly showing us this way. Teaching means showing us the way to not to think or feel or see or do or know or opinion particular way, but particular way instead. That is the way. So refuge. So after taking refuge, after having the understanding of the refuge, then we become very cognizant of the law of cause and effect. We can see consciously, we can create causes, we can uncause sufferings through our own conscious doing. And so we looked at the law of karma. Law of karma becomes not a law out there, but it's operating in every day. If you forgot to put on a warm jacket coming out tonight, you feel cold on the way. but then you realize that you can have to uncause the cold by a jacket, but no jacket, so you feel cold. But when you bring the jacket, then it's cold, but you can block the cause and keep yourself warm. So the cause and effect is nothing mystical or esoteric about foreign philosophy. It's actually we are constantly creating causes for things we want and blocking causes that we don't want. And so in this way, we have looked at a number of topics. So that now, without needing to go over all the topics tonight, we are going to look at the cause of all the karma and samsara. And the suffering world is the according to this presentation, this analytical meditation, we haven't come to talk about the noble truth of suffering. We have talked noble truth of suffering because we talked about samsara, isn't it? But we haven't talked about the origin of suffering. So tonight's topic is the truth of origin of suffering. Only the second noble truth is actually discussed at this length. Because origin, or true origin, the true origin of suffering, this shows that there may be a false origin that we may be pointing finger until now. Maybe until some time ago we've been thinking that the true origin of suffering is this person's, what they did to me, or always out there. The one who has sought refuge and found refuge in the teachings now have learned to stay safe, not to do that, but instead look at what is the true origin of suffering are two. True origin of suffering is karma and affliction. And karma is actually harder, but it's more apparent. Afflictions are much subtle, but it's actually more confronting, So tonight we're going to look at the affliction as the true origin of suffering, because afflictions are usually more subtler, hidden than karma. Karma is the action that we physically output, verbally say, mentally think, and these are on either conscious or unconscious actions, and they create sufferings, but we don't know that we are creating them. We think we are instigated by some external forces to make us to do the things, and therefore we raise our arms or open our mouth and tighten our fist and close our eyes, they call it. And when we're angry, we do 4 things right. Close the eyes, open the mouth, tighten the fist, and lose all the senses. So that's what the true origin is. The affliction, such as anger, just takes over us and forces us to do things. So the negative karma or action that is verbally said or physically aggressively expressed are usually caused by very hidden forces called affliction. So that's what we're going to look at. Truth of origin. Truth of origin of sufferings. The nature of, that's right. So truth of origin of suffering is klesha. In Sanskrit we call klesha. Say we can call affliction or defilements or disturbing emotion, destructive emotion. A number of terms has been used. Nature of afflictive emotions are very difficult to detect. Because they are very difficult to detect, we think something else is the force rather than our own affliction. So it's a very subtle. We usually don't have eye for it, We don't have the eye to detect afflictions. But once you have refuge, it just opens the eyes. Refuge is open the little corner of the eye to see. You can see from this angle. So once you have refuge, you start noticing the so-called afflictions. And until then, we think it's there. This action, this person's action, that's what they did to me. Those are the cause of my suffering. We always think the origin of sufferings are out there. We are not saying it's not dependently originated without birth out there, but the true origin is not them. So therefore, truth of origin, Sanskrit, samudaya, the origin, where the thing, where it emerges from, it emerges from. When you see the roof is leaking, where the water is actually dropping may not necessarily the place where the leak is, That may be the lowest point of the roof from where the water, but actual leak might be somewhere else, you see. So the true leak, try to find the true leaking place, it's a bit hard. So the nature of afflictive emotion is very difficult to detect. It's hard, it's subtle, it's hidden, but it grows in time. It grows almost like a seed. It grows in time. Once you cultivate it, unconsciously it grows unless you deliberately block it or remedy it. So it isn't a thing that it's like bacteria, It is bacteria basically. earlier detection is better. Earlier detection is better. I mean, modern medicine is exactly like Dharma. We have been very good at detecting the illnesses. All the medical technology is all about how good we become detecting early. Earlier we detect, that much we could remedy quicker without the actual full-blown illness itself, you see. Likewise, so the afflictions, the nature of afflictions, it need to be checked carefully, again and check. People who take refuge, they're checking every week. Every day with the sadhana, they're checking. Their meditation, every day their practice is helping to keep a check, It's like people doing tests, tests whether they got pancreatic cancer or bowel cancer or breast cancer or whatever. They have to have routine mammogram and tests, So the Dharma, you practice every day and you can tell whether the defilements are increasing or not. Whether how you see somebody is not so much how somebody is. It's how much affliction is detected or undetected. And then, when you have an optical illusion, you don't see the image very clearly. The image is fading away, Likewise, when affliction is very current and current on your mind, then you start seeing negative things. You don't see good things. You don't feel safe. You don't feel loved. And amazing. But when you are practicing refuge, and then even though you have temporary afflictions, but you can make them, you can uncause them. You can uncause them. You can sort of reduce them by as quickly as you recognize. But another thing is trigger of affliction is negative emotions. It's usually things or incidents or objects or people or events and they could trigger what they call push my wrong button. Don't push my button means you've got all these time bombs everywhere that people can press and you just set alarm. So we should deactivate those trigger points. Once you understand affliction, you tend to have the ability to avoid trigger places, that those things that trigger, and try to retreat from those trigger situations. Try to stay safe with the practice and good companions and Dharma, of course. Another thing about this is not only the negative affliction difficult to detect, but they are easily triggerable by negative forces, but they have a possessive factor. They tend to possess you. They tend to own you. As if they take control over you, and you don't even know you have them, and you don't think that. No, I'm not angry. They say, and they don't even know they are possessed by it. So it's a very devastating. It's a benumbing. So we'll come to later on the number 7, the 16 analogies of affliction. That will show you how benumbing and how possessive, how debilitating the afflictions are. And then those triggers I was referring to, the triggers is the basic factors that gives rise to affliction is usually an object. So when you're exposed to a negative object, like a person or negative incidents or negative situations, when you're exposed to negative factors, so that's a situational factor. Situation is usually external to you, and then immediate factor is whatever is the incident that made you to be so proximately close to it. Say if you're 2 miles away from the situation, it wouldn't quite affect you. So because of our own proximity to the situation and our exposure to that, immediately we are so close to it that is another factor. Another is what we call the afflictive factor, that we ourselves have some kind of maybe simultaneously born factor. We ourselves a little angry or had a crooked night and have a very sort of some bad thoughts happening about some issues in our mind, and then those triggers, those situations, our proximity to it could then set them. So those are factors. So factors are situational, immediate, and then our own mental condition, what kind of state we are in. So you can sometimes tell somebody look very vulnerable, so don't mention it. Don't even go nearby them. So some people who are mindful tend to do that, treat each other. So you know how not to create the factors, because afflictions are also dependently originated. It should not be thinking that I am the only origin of affliction. No, even afflictions are dependent factors. And then, of course, when you are in that external situation, due to proximity of oneself being that, and one is fairly vulnerable in one's own negativity, and then one just have to be absent-minded, that's all. One just have to be not aware of that I'm afflicted. One who's aware that I'm afflicted might be able to contain their thoughts, and then may practice tolerance, and they are able to practice safety. So those who are in refuge, and those whose practice is good, they can really contain their nerves or thoughts, and they stay tight-lipped. They contain their mind, and they practice kindness or tolerance, or they breathe out, or whatever they do. They use their various techniques so they're not so. You can see everybody practicing as much as they can. So not everybody has all those avenues up their sleeves. So when you're not able to, contain these external basic factors, and you become vulnerable and possessed by them, then the fifth one is the activity. What does the affliction do? What is the function of activity? Function of affliction is. What does the affliction cause us do? Vasubandhu's whole teaching on law of cause and effect is this: afflictions are that which forces us, which blindfold us, and makes us to do and say things without knowing the consequences or inappropriate. We just don't know. So firstly, it says there are 10 factors. These are very, very technical. 10 factors of the affliction function. Firstly, it makes you become so deeply rooted in your idea. Stabilization of the root means if you're angry, you think you've got a really 110 good reasons to be angry. So if you're angry, you think you got to fix the whole world by taking action. So you become deeply rooted. You are not able to free yourself from it. You're so committed to that. So people, what they call driven. People feel driven by a force other than themselves, and they see nothing but some good result coming from it. And they're not going to back down. That's the whole thing. It's just like a demon. It's a klesha mara. It's a klesha, Klesha just kills your conscience. Mara is that kills your conscience and push you to direction that you have no way to step back. Self-sustaining continuity. Yeah. It is keep refueling the reasonings. Whichever angle you try to reason, it all fuels the same problem. And so you feel legitimate reason to feel angry or to hurt, to feel that you can do something. It seems to have its own ability to sustain itself until the wrong view has been uprooted. So most people don't even know it's the wrong view they need to uproot. They feel driven. And they will be able to influence like-minded people in no time. They'll recruit whole forces. Team of people could be easily influenced by that. Afflictions is so powerful to recruit deluded people in no time. Quickly, they're so like a fire that just burns so quickly. Destructive to the object and circle of object. And the person not aware. Now, a person is not aware what he's saying or doing is destructive to everyone, but he's not aware of that. It's spread like a disease. All those around are affected. And refuels and accelerate the causes. And there's no defueling, but refueling, And it reasons the same way again and again, multiplies the very causes of anger or whatever the negative emotion is. It is destabilizing the house while once it has beautified it. Now, everything that person did, he's destroying them in no time, but he's not aware of it. The person may have chipped a little bit of the house. He says, why did you do that? And he himself destroying the whole house. And still he wanted to prove that this person destroyed my house. So such a devastating reaction, overreaction. We're talking about overreaction. The person is not aware of his own action, what he's doing, and the consequences. He's just amplifying what somebody did, a little chip on the corner of your house, and then you're going to do anything. So it's creates a mistaken reality. It takes only a small, little amount of time, In such a short period of time, huge damage is caused when the person is acting on their driven afflictions. It'll become more damaging, unless they come to their conscience, unless they come to refuge, unless they learn to recognize the true origin of suffering is their own anger and their own reaction. They will still do more harm, and they wouldn't know how to stop damaging. Clinging to the mistaken realities as correct, that's even wrong. Not only that, they still feel that their mistaken reality is the only correct reality, and one is not able to let go of that just yet. One would not give up that, so driven. They could not switch the mind, the clinging mind makes it harder to come to one's senses, It no matter, very few people can interrupt that. Usually those people who listen to are easily influenced that, because they're just as deluded. They're just as have all the factors now. They got all the factors. It's just like the fire falls, little spark fires, everything is ready to burn. It's dangerous like that. Most people are not able to offer a remedy, calm, compassionate, cool-headed. Very few people can do that. They usually give the wrong advice, a wrong response, or give them moral support. They think they got a good cause, and they don't realize they themselves caught by the very torrent of the flood of wrong views. Super obsessive confusion. The person is obsessed and stay confused. They could not switch the mind from thinking that. They just completely taken up by that. What we call klesha mara. This mara means the affliction kills the person's reasonableness, calmness, their generous, their goodness, all they had. It just totally wipes them up, and they have no way to regain back. And they don't know they are doing that. They thought they were going to just point out something else, somebody else's weakness, but now they have themselves killed themselves many times, and they don't realize. And this is what we're talking about. The truth origin of suffering. Coerce, hijacked consciousness. The person's consciousness is completely hijacked, overtaken by this reason that it only feel committed to stay angry, to take punitive measures, to take destructive measures, and they think that aggression is warranted. And all wars are fought on the basis of this, It's amazing. So driven. Actually, we become unconscious. That's right. Person who is driven by affliction become unconscious. That's why it is called Mara. Mara means killer. Killer of what? Killer of the consciousness, awareness, and that cognitive awareness is gone. Rebellious and anti-virtuous conduct. Now, a person is actually very rebellious. The very virtuous conduct they want person to do, they're doing exactly opposite of it. Sometimes try to help us, but reject and prevent that, And we do the exact opposite to compassion, Then they think they're being compassionate, but they're actually doing the exact opposite. They want to punish somebody out of compassion. They say, I'm not going to let my compassion be wasted. And then that's all the wars are fought on the basis of correcting the terrible mistake made by the other, and think that will just be the very good, very kind, and stop the world from being bad and make everything perfect. Such kind of idealistic, wrong view. So that's the affliction. And wholly trapped in erroneous conviction. The person stays in that stuck in that past, and cannot come out of that. But only way they can come out of that is if we can uncause the affliction. So how do we do that? The effect of affliction is person who is usually kind become cruel, usually generous become very miserly, usually very patient become impatient, and they become exactly opposite. So they wouldn't know they have turned into that. And of course later when they do gain their consciousness, they couldn't believe how did they do that in such a short span of time. So this is very important. These 16 analogies of affliction, I put the opposite there, but just to give us a little bit of balance. Just if we are able to offset the other, then of course the opposite. But these are very important. This is from the sutra, from Buddhist sutras. It says how the afflictions are like. Buddhist literature actually says it usually. When the 3 poisons, they usually call it. First is poison. It totally poisons our mind, and if because it makes us sick and unwell, because it poisons our reason, and then. But if we remedy the affliction, then it is medicine, yeah. And another is this is an interesting example. Second one is fire, ember, flame, blaze, yeah. So basically, second example of affliction is fire. The fire are many different forms. Firstly, it's maybe it was big flame, and then slowly goes down, and ember. The ember might still there, so it's very very easy to flame again. So ember is form of a resentment, So some you haven't given up on that. You're still
I think you mean ember.
Yeah, ember.
With an E.
Yeah, you're there with the E.
Yeah.
This is air, is it?
Because amber is colour.
Oh yeah.
It's a yellow colour.
Yeah. Yeah, it's E basically. It's E, not A. See, easy to be deluded. See, we can't even tell whether it's A or E. Me particularly. But I knew what I'm talking about. So the ember could be sitting under the ashes and not noticeable. So lots of our afflictions are just like ember, they're not noticeable, and sometimes they just become burn. You can see it's blazing, and then but that very fire, if that very fire of affliction that usually burns you, if you really understand that very affliction becomes light. That very affliction becomes light. It's not the light that will burn you, but light that will show you the correct way. So if you know the affliction, nature of the affliction, then the fire can shed the positive light, So because people who have become very reformed have been burned many times, and they have been healed. As the result of healed, then they have become kind, and then they become non-violent. Then they because they have burnt in that fire many times, and so now they're recovered. Basically, they're healed from, and it's not possible unless one has been badly hurt by affliction to become light and healed and medicined by Dharma. Third example is river or flood, sea. So usually we call sea of samsara, isn't it? A river of sufferings and a flood of emotions. So this analogy is very important because if we don't know how big the afflictions can be. Like a flood comes, everybody screams, But somebody's angry, we think we So. But the river, flood, and sea, like waves, they like waves. Your affliction sometimes come in waves, and then slowly go away, But it is usually there's a ripple effect of something happened, this happened, that happened, then it just build up, build up. If you understand how to contain the river and a flood, it is the river that we drink, quench the thirst. So don't think the afflictions are inherently bad. If you know how to use it, is that very water that which can quench the thirst. Person who is drowned in the anger of a stream of negative emotions cannot see any dry land. Every drop around him, he is salty water. Sea and waves is an analogy of the stream that is expanded. When one understands that nature of affliction, then the affliction quenches the thirst. Because when you see the affliction as affliction, it's not afflictive mind. Because it now knows afflictionness. Because when one is afflicted, one doesn't know one is afflicted. It's like a person who is lost, he doesn't know he's lost. But when he knows that he's lost, he hasn't been lost, he has found. He has been lost. When the loss is blissful. But as soon as he found that he's lost, then he says, damn it. Like that, if you understand you're afflicted, then you realize this is poison, this is dangerous, this is fire, and then people try to contain themselves. Yeah. Often we don't have the mindfulness to know it's my affliction. They think it's object or things external. We don't realize it's our afflicted mind. And another analogy of an affliction is enemy. You know, and they called arhats. The saints in Buddhism called arhats, 4 destroyers, means those who have destroyed the enemy. The inner enemy, you know, those who have arihat means to kill, who have destroyed the inner enemy. So inner enemy is affliction. Because if we do contain the inner enemy, and then because if you do make friends with the enemy, they become friend. you know, friend doesn't pop up from sky, you know. Friends are those with whom you have made amendment and you have forgiven each other, understand each other, and be kind to each other. And then even past foes become good friends. And so Dharma has the power to turn the enemy into friend and recognize an enemy that we didn't think was enemy. Enemy causes harm directly or indirectly. You know, affliction. Affliction causes harm. Even we cannot sleep. People can't sleep at night because they have enemy inside them. Because just like someone's house is already, thief is already in. He thinks he's sleeping, but he can see the noise happening. It's just like a house that is completely overtaken by thieves. And it is self-sustaining. You know, negative emotion can make yourself as well as your friend and family suffer, you know. So the afflictions are, you know, because friends and families are very loyal. They're just as deluded as you are, and they will support you unconditionally. You know, they have no wisdom to say, my dear, really, I want to help you, but here it's your anger is really making it a little hard. It's not warranted. Don't do that. Usually friend, family don't say that, hardly any. They usually think you've got a multitude of reasons they can support unconditionally. And they can't really help us. They only suffer with us. That's all they have. They're just as deluded as we are. And it takes no time to harm on friends and relatives. You know, when you're afflicted, it doesn't take long to pull down many of your friends. Remedy is friendship. You should get to know them, and then you will know not to hold their hands. So that's the afflictions. When you get to know the affliction, and then we don't hold them, we don't be possessed by them, and we actually know how to do it. Knowing the cause of suffering. This is the truth or origin of suffering is affliction. Because even the noble truth of path or the cessation of the suffering doesn't happen until we are able to recognize the true origin of suffering. That's the second noble truth the origin of suffering. People say that it was the difficulties of life difficulty of life is what brought them to the Dharma. It is true, isn't it? When people meet difficulties, Buddha himself, when he saw the old age, sickness, and death, and that totally made him to think again what life is all about. And he realized that there are a lot more things we are doing that are unnecessary, that we should be doing a few things that are really should be done before it's too late. And until difficulties happens, we do not find the Dharma. So sometimes our afflictions are bad, but afflictions brings us to the medicine. And storm, storm could be very strong, or medium, or mild, and afflictions can be like that too, So sometimes people are really angry. You can see their storm. Their language comes like a storm. The way they open the door is a storm. And other times, they're mild. They really got a little mild, So it's good. The storm come quickly, but usually it become peacefully quickly as well. So that means there is nothing really in it. It's empty gas. So there's not a lot there. When there's storm outside, then the what is the bomb? Yeah. Huh? Yeah, that's right. See, everybody is very apt here. Everybody is very, very alert. My note was prepared a long time ago. I was thinking, what is that now? Trying to save some ink. Nearly saved my knowledge. See? Yeah, Bureau of Meteorology will tell you the storm is coming. It's helpful, isn't it? So if you have a Bureau of Meteorology in your mind, Bureau of Affliction detector in your mind, you can tell, if you're not careful, don't go there. You were a little upset with him last time. Please don't go near him like that with that kind of view. Get that kind of perception. Yeah, yeah. Negative emotion can instantly erupt. So it's like a storm. It may appear, it may appear it just as it just arrived. But looking carefully, then one sees that the latent causes of storm were there already. It may appear as something caused it. Whatever caused it, but actually they were already the amber. They were already it was already forecasted. And another example is darkness. In Manjushri prayer it says, "Please lift the darkness." Darkness, ignorance. And the good thing about that is that afflictions are darkness, but when you understand darkness, they become light. This is very, very common analogy. People say dark and light, violence and peace, and so on. Light is knowledge, knowing darkness as darkness. Like when we know we are angry, when we know we are very selfish, we realize it's not healthy. With this thought, it can't say. Everything I say would be really very awfully useless, destructive, and then we are aware. So, and the seventh one is fetter. Is usually the chain, iron chains. The Indian teaching uses we are iron chained by our own karma. We are bound by our own afflictions. As though one's hands are bound or chained, when by afflictions. One feels totally stuck. One knows that one got into the situation by themselves. If you seek freedom from without, then it is not freedom. The person who thinks it is them who has changed, then I be happy. If it's them who has do this, then I will be kind. So that's the fetter again and again, chaining again and again. The one who knows the fetter, they try to unchain themselves. I need to loosen this chain from my end. And then never mind which post it is tied to. Because it's no point blaming the post, it's the chain. Is the chain is actually not something. It's many pieces. This is not a chain. This is just a hook. Another hook. Another chain. Another hook. So 4 or 5 of them become chain. But if we can loosen this one hook and another hook, then even the actual post to which we are tied to doesn't really have any hold on us. You see? So this is a chain of reaction. We need to say, I take that back. I take that back. I subtract that view or point of view, whatever. And then, you see, this analytical meditation is about learning how to uncause the afflictive chains. Learning how to loosen the chain. Shantideva used all these beautiful analogies in the work, When you read Shantideva's Bodhisattva's Way of Life, all the Buddhist poetry, they use very beautiful metaphors. And these metaphors are very old metaphors. They are sutric metaphors, so the later authors use all those examples. And another is thief, that thief steals, Negative emotion steals your faith and kindness and gratitude, all this good things in your safe get destroyed by a negative emotion. People think, they think they had a lot of faith, but they think that somebody else destroyed their faith. They don't realize their own negative reaction destroyed it in the first place. Nobody can destroy anybody's faith. Of course, interdependently, unfortunately, it can be caused. But the one who has the ability to know it's my own overreaction, that is one that can destroy me more. That's going to steal my faith in the Triple Gem more than whatever this person does or that person does. And so that is what we call the thief, because the thief usually does a good act of stealing. We don't know who stole it. So like that person who is afflicted doesn't know it's themselves. When the thief is the inner one, they say, that's the trouble. When the thief is the outer one, at least you can arrest them and give it to the police, and then you think that all your goods will come back. But when the thief is the inner one, it's a very difficult one. So you feel totally empty of all of your good things. Because they're on affliction. If it's external enemy, thief, then when they absent from your life, then you be completely happy, because they no longer have any influence. So what has happened is once one has lost all one's faith, one's own courage or goodness because of one's own affliction. One's own affliction caused the loss of our own, misplacement of our own goodness in no time. Security is refuge. In the practice of Dharma, it is our practice of Dharma that can prevent the loss of our faith, but not somebody else's behavior, somebody else's wonderful qualities, Buddha says, don't rely on people, rely on Dharma. He knew that people will mistakenly rely on people as they're going to give them salvation. Buddha himself said that, I'm not the salvation. Dharma, because they cried when he was dying. He said, look, you got mistaken phenomena here. You've got the practice. What are you talking about? I'm not going to rescue you. He said, I will never rescue you. It's only the Dharma. See, there is a Zen nun who wrote a song called Buddha simply show the way. So Buddha simply show the way, but actual salvation or liberation comes from our practicing of it, not even by the Buddha. So that means that one should not be robbed by one's own naivety that somebody else can liberate us, even as a Buddha, or somebody else, terrible person, can destroy our faith. Such blaming is done in all societies. Buddhists have to be a little different, Little different. Particularly talking about, Buddha himself never said he will liberate anybody. And if anybody says that, His Holiness Dalai Lama says these days, please don't be traditional Buddhists, just praying and bowing down in front of Buddha as if he can liberate. He said, no, this liberation comes from your own good karma and good deeds. And particularly the idea of guru worship is really people worshipping. It's completely mistaken. Mistaken idea of idealization of that somebody will do everything for us. Buddha himself didn't do it. How could anybody else do it? So that's why it's very important. The whole idea of people worshipping instead of refuge in the triple gem. Refuge in the triple gem. Lots of people, the cult of Guru in the 1960s came, and they think the Guru will just liberate them. Sit in front of Sai Baba, he'll produce some small little ashes on you, and dance like this, everybody's happy feeling. But when he disappears, then everybody feels devastated. That's not faith. That's just entertainment. So when your entertainer dies, you mourn. That's the problem. He can no longer entertain you. You see, that's the problem. See, Dharma is not entertainment. It is medicine to get us well. It is not entertainment. So it's important not to have that kind of mentality, looking one who has faith in the triple gem. The negative emotions are not allowed to rob us that any more than it has done before. Yeah, that prevent us, our qualities and friendship from being robbed. Yeah, now nobody can rob. They can test you. Buddha said, test your faith. Test your gold. So anybody who's difficult with you, they're actually testing whether you got actually any dharma up your sleeves or not. They're actually giving you a good examination, final examination. Very good. So they are actually very useful. Actual checking whether you got understanding of dharma or not. So that nobody get robbed by anybody or misled by anybody but their own affliction. In the final analysis, This is not saying things are not interdependent. We're not saying that. It will be too wrong a view. Just for the sake of this analogy. Number 9 is demon. Yeah. Mara, we call Mara. People feel possessed. People say he must be possessed, When somebody's angry, you can see they're really possessed. Otherwise, they're weak. They can't even get up. When they're angry, you can see they have a lot of force. They have a lot of energy. They can take the bag or pull the thing so quickly. So as if somebody possessed them, demonized them as they become so powerful. Usually they're very weak or very slow. So demon means it's like possess the affliction to possess the person. People are totally overtaken by afflictions. Are like they are possessed by a demon. They look awful. The words they say doesn't look like them, and their body becomes completely, even their ornaments become so useless. They have earrings, they have all those things, they have matching shirt and everything. It all looks completely. So like demon who's dressed well is not a good. Demon who's dressed well is still a demon, Demons like something, Demons has a particular call, because you couldn't give up that you're so set in your mind. Demons do not like good things, so you need to stay kind and do ritual and say mantras. So because mantras, when a person who says mantra, demon can't possess you. That's why people say mantras. Then they don't get obsessed by the afflictions. Mantra means it protects your mind from becoming afflicted. Because that's why mantras are good, even when people sick or unwell, we say mantras. Because otherwise there's a lot of sadness, a lot of worry, and there's a lot of feel, oh, poor me, poor us. Then everybody becomes so overwhelmed. And if somebody's saying mantras while they're unwell or something, it just calms people down and do not bring the demonic energy. And yes, disease, that's right. Yes, afflictions, dis-ease takes away all the ease, or comfort, wellness. Everybody would like to be well, but one cannot heal under negative emotions are dealt with. So most disease, have their root in afflictions. Tibetan medicine say that, all the illnesses come from afflictions. And therefore, if you cultivate the remedies to the affliction, even diseases could be cured quickly on top of the medication. It can assist the medication. It can slow the growth of the ulcer, the growth of the whatever it is. If you practice kindness instead of anger. Because otherwise the anger develops certain negativities, and that constitutionally creates the fluid and elements in the body to become disturbed and unharmonious. And as a result of that, it becomes very, very unaccommodating for ease and comfort. So become disease. So because of that, the joints and the muscles, everything becomes stressed. And because it is carrying all this toxic information, and in the mind first, then become emotionalized, then become fluid, and then they become interfere with the actual constituents of your body, and therefore it can. Then the person is very vulnerable to contract illnesses quickly, and then one thing led to another, and they hardly can recover because of the negative chain of afflictions. It is people are disease explains it all, because dis-ease means absence of ease. Absence, lack of ease, dis-ease. Because one's ease has been killed, and it has totally become sick. People are emaciated by lack of kindness. If they're angry, even they're eating. Even though they have recently went to a dietitian, they changed the diet, they're doing exercise, they're doing all these, but still angry, what's the benefit of it? It wouldn't, because in deep down, we are consumed by the whole immune system is not responding to the diet because it is so destabilized. They call it distractive emotion. That's why they call that destructive. It destroys us from within. You can't take pills or something for your bone density or muscle or vitamin A or food supplement or supplement, but no supplement for the real thing. From inside, one is completely corroded by anger or afflictions. So that's why it's a disease. So so it is hard to cure unless you have the correct medicine. Dharma is what one thinks, what one speaks, and if one acts well, if one is able to act well, think well, speak well to the liking of others, then of course we are not unwell. We are well. Behavior is very indicative, very clearly easy, show whether the mind is under the affliction or not. Then you are immunized from disease, basically, yeah. We take all kinds of immunizations, from the day you're born until you reach, I don't know how many age. When does it stop immunization? We have to do every few years. You have to do a booster, isn't it? So just to keep the physical disease, you have to be immunized. You have to take the boosters, particularly you travel some places. Of course, those places, if you don't go, you're safe. But affliction is not localized in third world countries. Afflictions are not containable by border protection. Afflictions are so penetrating, so elusive. It's just come from nowhere, and doesn't have any barcode yet. Afflictions got no barcode. Now, next time affliction might have a barcode, and we might have a barcode reader, scanner. That's Dharma. We're talking about when you practice Dharma, you can actually read the affliction's presence in your mind very clearly. So that's right. So next example is death. Death, because basically, affliction kills. Not only disease, not only it's a disease, it actually kills. People are afraid of disease because it kills. But people don't know how to fearful of afflictions. That's actually the real killer. So
affliction is kills because it kills your love, fondness, kindness, compassion, joy, all those goodness we really value ourselves to practice. We might even have studied them. We actually may have kept them, how important of how to practice development, compassion. We recite mantra, we do this, we do this. All of these are very nicely filed as in our life learning. And when the affliction comes, it destroys all of them. So it not only kills life, but it kills all our merits. So that's why all the other 9 examples are useless, you know. When the negative emotions arise, then there is death of the person, you know. Basically, all the other analogies are small analogies. It's a miniature. They're just insane. They're like the storm, or even storm it may kill us. That's the whole thing. It kills our conscience and patience, the goodness. Some people were so good, so kind, so generous. But when they resorted to one particular affliction, they're not triggered by, of course, unfortunate circumstances. They didn't have the ability to detect it. They didn't have the ability to contain it. And it just totally wiped. And they don't know how to resurrect themselves because they died, basically. They died to the anger. They basically died. And since then, they are just mourning that death. And they actually is not the same person anymore. And unless they have a great recovery, good practice. So you have to be reborn and resurrect. You cannot be the same. Person takes long time to redefine themselves after they have long bout of hatred to something, and it takes a long time. But those who have dharma definitely can quickly come to refuge and take refuge to the true refuge object, not to the kind of imagined and idealized of the refuge. Real true refuge is the dharma. Even dharma, they say, it's not the scriptural dharma, it's the realizational dharma. That's the true refuge. Now the 12th example is old age, because aging. That's when a person is deluded, afflicted, it ages them quickly. No point buying nice moisturizing creams, when inside you're getting dried up. So practice dharma if you practice kindness, probably that's the best moisturizer. Yeah, you lose your strength and limbs are not strong. Yeah, people become vulnerable. Yeah, we don't contract illness from no reasons. We all have clean water. All the water is good, and we all got the fresh oxygen. The air, water, fire, all the elements are equally available to our disposal. But why are some vulnerable to some illness and some not? It's because how they are conditioning their mind, and then they become vulnerable to age very quickly. Some are biologically aged so much than the age they are. Others are biologically look stronger, but even though they are much older. So you can see that's how quickly that we don't, how poor we are in conserving our energy. With the good heart conserve a lot of energy. And when one is in the senses always a slave of the senses, then it ages our senses quickly, and we age very quickly. You lose your strength and limbs go very weak. You don't hear and see properly. So all the senses also go weak very quickly. You feel cold and lose your memory and have forgotten gratitude. You are wearied. It is like a compassion fatigue. Youth is the renewed sense of friendship and kindness. Whereas if a person who practices dharma, they regain their youthfulness of kindness and fitness to be tolerant and wise and forgiving and understanding. And they really make you much younger in your spirit, His Holiness Dalai Lama still look very young, And he also really, always very innocent. He looks like a little boy. Little boy, deep down. Nothing has aged him, really. He's seen it all so many times, 14 lives, he's seen it all. If the 14 is not enough, he's got more. I haven't quite told you. He knows all lives, and none of the things these happen in these lives will worry him. These things cannot break his neck. So he's not ageable, And there's a lot there in community. Some people are very, very young in their goodness, not aged, not fatigued by their goodness, but almost soothed by their goodness. So When the affliction is not so much a resident in our mind, then the opposites are resident. Goodness, kindness, gratitude. When these things are more consciously called, this is meditation. The meditation is we're trying to replace these thoughts, replace this affliction by kindness, and recite the mantra, stay present, and do the prayers, and practice meditation. And we try to unsit these afflictions and try to replace them by good, holistic, wholesome mind of intelligence, that like Buddha mind. And that's why we try to imagine like the Buddha before us, and feel the energy coming to us and relieving our stress. And that's why the Dharma is practiced in the way it is, because our thoughts are replaceable, and they are not us. And how could our affliction be us? Affliction is just a temporal. It's called adventitious obscuration. They are conditions. They can be deconditioned. The weather is a condition, isn't it? That's why we can put this guru here. The heater, it can, he's working very hard, he's tried to unsit the cold in this room. Yeah, when you practice loving kindness, you can unsit the coldness that you feel towards others, and it warms your heart up, and then you see such debilitating nature of ill will and rejection and cutting them. Those are like the cold. This is like devastating cold, cold emotions. It ages us very quickly. Yeah. And number 13 is poverty. Example is poverty. Affliction just makes you so poverty-stricken. You cannot practice kindness because you're so poor in it. You cannot speak kindly because you don't have vocabulary for it. You just don't know any vocabulary to speak when one is afflicted. When one is free of the affliction, then you are abundant with good words. People who are practicing in a very good space, they speak beautiful. They're so kind, and they each other's kindness of where they speak is so comfortable, so comforting, so soothing, and so inspiring. But the opposite is when a person is afflicted. Then they're so poor. They're so tight-fisted. They don't have words. They don't have memory to speak good things. They can't see nothing that is good. Therefore, they can't say anything good, because that's where they are so poverty-stricken. Where the person is remedying the afflictions, and then, of course, the opposite. The opposite of positive emotion is a sense of abundance. Opposite of negative emotion is sense of abundance. And is in possession of a treasure. Then you become very rich. You can say kind words. And it seems so proper to say that, no matter how negative somebody is, but it's so proper to say something positive, to neutralize that. It seems so sensible to bring the Band-Aid to whose leg is injured. Instead of bringing another stone and hit on it. So it's amazing when somebody is injured. Quickly people find something straight away. That's exactly. Most people are internally injured like that. They're really injured by the anger. They have been hurt by... And now how are we going to help them to recover? And then if we try to say this is their mistake or something, of course it doesn't help. We need to bring them in a very caring and very soothing kind of mentality, so they can regain their consciousness. Otherwise, they're so poor, they're so poverty, so hungry. They haven't got anything to eat that is sustainable for their happiness. So, exactly opposite. When the affliction is resident. So poor is, there's they don't see anything. They don't see the kindness of the mother. They can't remember them, and they instead highlight all the wrong things, and they amplify them, exaggerate them. They're so poor in good memory, and they're so abundant in bad memory and amplification of them. Exactly opposite of it. When the Buddha got enlightened under the Bodhi tree, for the next 7 weeks he couldn't help remembering all the past 500 lives, and he could remember all the good as equally as all the unfortunate things. And he could see the good actually outweigh. When you're enlightened, you see that the good that you forgot actually outweigh the bad that you used to complain. So when we are in a good space, that's what happens. We become rich in positive memory. And then we don't see the benefit of holding any bad memory. You see the futility, waste of time. Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about here. And some people use the word conflicting emotions for affliction. That's exactly when Buddhist teaching says emotion is like a conflict, like there's a fight. There's a fight at your hand, And people can't sleep because they have a fight at their hand. They are completely struggling with anger. They don't feel good, but they still feel they got many enough reasons not to let go of it. And they could not make up mind when to change their mind and drop the case, drop the issue. They say, take action. That what they're saying is, go on war, join the war, means fight. Go and hit, strike. That's what they're talking about. Take action, they call it. They don't realize they're causing the conflict. There's strife and struggle, There is a crisis, basically. The person who is emotionally disturbed has a crisis, internal kind. One is continually externalizing the conflicts. One is always blaming external things, other things, without realizing it is all conflicting emotions of their own. They think they love, they hate them, They think they love them, but they're hating them. They think they care about them, but they're destroying them. They think they care about it, but they're destroying them. So you can see a person in conflict doesn't know. It's like Syria, They say they all care about Syria, but everybody's destroying Syria. So sad, isn't it? I mean, there's hardly any foreign forces doing anything. They all go to care about Syria. In the meantime, all Syrians are shooting at each Syrians and destroying Syrian buildings, Syrian hospital, Syrian airport. Amazing example. And they don't know that. And they still cannot stop. They cannot put an end because they think it's a legitimate reason to that. They think they can win the conflict, So deluded. There is no winner in wars. Everybody is destroyed. With positive emotions, you will send, what do you call LK? Yeah, yeah. You send loving kindness out to the others, and then instead of sending ill will and vicious thoughts, vicious kind of criticism, and instead you send a loving kindness, and then you feel, then you are in peace. You have no fight because you have completely transformed the conflicting emotion into harmonize. Ill will is basically unrealized goodwill. So if you try a little bit carefully, it may turn good. So people impatient from becoming good, they just become ill. But deep down, they care about it. Deep down, they really have goodwill, but the good got hijacked, by the forces of evil. And there's people who are afflicted, they feel lonely, the loneliness, and because of their affliction, they never feel friendship with anybody. They feel alienated. They don't feel the respect. They don't know how to respect. They don't know how to show or appreciate anybody because they feel so walled by their own affliction. They become so alone. And that's why all these one-bedroom units they're building. One-bedroom units. the more developed country, 1-bedroom units stacked on top of each other. Stacked on top of each other. I'm not saying it's bad, but this, it's better to have lots of people together, helping each other. three generation in one house is very good sign, very healthy. You don't see that very often these days. In some kind of third world countries still, not because they choose it, but because they still know it's much better. A lot of people migrate to the West, like Indians and some others migrate to the West. They really don't want to live separately. They really want the same roof with father, mother, sister, his daughter-in-law, everybody. Somebody does that. Somebody doesn't have to do that because he's doing that for everybody. Somebody does the washing. Not everybody washing their own miserable 5 socks and 2 singlets and things like that. It's a ridiculously waste of energy and everything, It's... Usually one person does the washing of everybody. It's so nice. Everybody says, thank you for doing my washing. Fold them nicely. One does the whole thing. The other one go and do the breadwinner unconditionally. Never think who is dependent to who. No such concepts are used. They never say, I've got 3 dependent home. They don't use those words. Because they don't think like that. Because they don't think, with alone you'd never survive. Go to Siberia, then you try. See, if you're so alone and independent, so capable, then try in the moon. Free rent up there. We will not survive alone. We are all dependent, no matter. Even we are living in 1 bedroom, but we should still feel we are dependent on the plumbers, electricians, planners. We should always think we're supported by each other, and we do our bit as we are also trying to go a little bit back. That's very important. Lots of loneliness in big cities. Why? So many million people live together, so just as lonely. Small villages, not lonely. Everybody helps around. So I'm talking about go back to the village campaign. Share things, do things together for each other. It's very good. Community is very good. And when you are so afflicted, you just think nobody understands you. And then there's feeling that you are just completely left in the cold by everybody. You feel like ununderstood, rejected, unloved, and therefore no self-worth. It is when we talk to someone about our problems, then they will understand, It looks like someone is understanding me, poor me, this kind of feeling. But people who are not afflicted, they don't think poor me. They think about the magnitude of suffering of people out there is far more than you can imagine yours. Yours don't even need a mention. You feel very bad to say about it because your conditions are many times much better than anybody else, and to talk about your difficulties seem like a very, very, very deluded, lonely person. So this is the second last, and the last is depression. Affliction is the cause of depression. So depression is prolonged sadness. When you're afflicted, you become really sad. But not only sad, but you tend to prolong the duration and the cause and conditions. So that's why, samsara is depression. Samsara means depression, basically. It doesn't mean that samsara has to have people who are not depressed. People will be depressed because they're deluded. They have affliction, and there's nobody who hasn't. It's just question is which one is more prominent. So therefore, this is a true origin of the suffering, the afflictions. These 16 analogies used in the sutras, and then specific afflictions are sometimes we call 3 poisons. Or 6 root afflictions. So here we got 6 root afflictions. So I'll go quickly through them. But generally speaking, these 16 analogies and the activities we've talked about, the activities of the function of the affliction, those 10 functions of affliction according to Vasubandhu's in the Abhidharma, these 26 points, the 10 activities, function of the affliction, and 16 analogies.
These are very useful because all these afflictions, whether they are root 6-1 or not, are all their functions are exactly the same. So now just closely looking at the specifics of the 6 afflictions. Afflictions are usually mainly 3, but when Abhidharma talks about 6 root afflictions, and then 22 secondary afflictions, and so on, altogether it is the very 3 afflictions, and 3 afflictions become multiplied by so many, then become 21,000. 21,000 affliction associated with hatred, 21,000 ignorance, 21,000 with the desire. So that makes 66,000. And then 21,000 21,000 collectively of all the afflictions. So 84,000 afflictions, that's how they counted. But we will not go over the 84,000 tonight. We'll just go over the 6 root afflictions. 6 root afflictions. First is desire. It doesn't mean first is first, but first when we say desire, mainly because we are in desire realm. We are always desiring. So desire and attachment. Attachment is more gentle. Desire is very constant. You don't even know it's affliction. So that's right. That we don't think we are doing affliction when we're desiring something. More active and constant, therefore listed first. And beings born in a desire are always desiring something. So, like even we may not desiring some kind of addictive fault of harm, but we might be desiring dharma and practice and good job and things like that. So still, desire is constant. You can't help that. Beings born in desire are always desiring something. It is necessarily deluded desire, while desire for enlightenment or for benefiting other is non-deluded desire. The desire to benefit other is non-deluded desire. So we are talking here as affliction is deluded desire. And this desire relates to attachment to things which are not causes of happiness. So desiring things that are not causes of happiness or benefit, like desiring possession or wealth or looks or appearance or positions and fame or respect, all these things. These are superficial, the worldly concerns. They're not really called. They may temporarily give some satisfaction, but they are ruinous. They are impermanent. They're transient. They usually are not cause happiness. More comfort they are, the more desirous they become. So when we become comforted by desirable things, we want more of them, like drinking salty water or aerated water. And drinking aerated water, and then we think it'll quench our thirst, but actually it makes wanting to drink more. So desire is like that. This is deluded perception that the object of desire is permanent. Mainly people become deluded desire because then what they desire, they think is not only they desire, they want that to last long. So there's nothing wrong with desiring things, but if you think that it's impermanent, and when you lose it, you don't have a worry, then that's not quite desire. You've got undiluted. You are still have to exist for the survival, but when you lose it, you don't suffer. So there is no attachment. But so it's not losing that is a suffering, but it's one's attachment to thinking it's permanent, things should last longer than it does, is the delusion. So to drink something or have something for the temporary use of it, and then when you don't have, you don't worry about it. That's just like like just existence, just survival. There someone who hasn't got the thing at all, but still think he lost that, and he should be last longer than 5 years or 10 years, or I thought it will last whole life or whatever, that kind of thing, and then carry on. That is the attachment. That is the attachment. That not only it's deluded in the thinking that the thing should be permanent. Things should not be so short-lived.
And when it is short-lived, then one reacts. Then one becomes childishly. Then one's become angry. That's what the afflictions of hatred comes from. Desire. Usually people are angry because they lost what they thought they desired, and they thought they could keep it longer. Or when it is slipped out of their hand, then they are angry. So when you ask people, how are you angry? They say, oh, I lost this, I lost this. But if they realize things are impermanent, and then they wouldn't be expecting to last longer. So what we talked about before, the law of impermanence last week, is very, very powerful for us to learn to know that everything is impermanent. When we know everything is impermanent, then we don't seek anything to be permanent. When they are impermanent, it's just like a milk carton. When you use it, finish, there's no milk, you don't quarrel with the milk carton. Empty milk cartons. Why you exhaust so quickly? I'm so far from town. It's very foolish, isn't it? That's what people are happening when they're angry, when they lost something. They're fighting with the milk carton, which they use themselves all, and still telling of the milk carton for exhausting too quickly. That looks very stupid, isn't it? That's what happens when the person is whinging and crying and carrying on because he lost. Not because the thing is impermanent, but because one expects to be permanent. So that's what the affliction is. It becomes afflicted because one doesn't know. It's become darkness. One is ignorant, disappointment in an object that one has invested so much in a thing that is unsatisfactory is desirous attachment. Because the things are not unsatisfactory from their own side. Things are impermanent. But when we expect to be satisfactory, then it turns out to be opposite. So desire makes it, because desire expects it to be satisfactory. If we expect to be unsatisfactory, we wouldn't be disappointed. Oh, I got an unsatisfactory watch. I bought it from the Friday market. If you say the unsatisfactory watch, then next time when the watch breaks, you don't have disappointment. I knew it was unsatisfactory. So you should say, this is my unsatisfactory friend. It's very, because don't tell them, of course, this. But in the meantime, you be nice to each other while it is because it's unsatisfactory. You don't mind, Yeah, it's really good to think it's unsatisfactory. So then at least it's true, It's true, that's true. When we're deluded, we expect to be satisfactory. We think it should be last longer, stronger, and better, or whatever, and then we get disappointed. Not because because we are deluded in believing it is unsatisfactory. All compounded phenomena are unsatisfactory. And not only that, they're impermanent. If these facts are not enough, what is going to wake us up? These are pretty obvious. Buddha was really, really so precise teaching. This is what the Buddha is, such an awakened one. He knows this so clearly. For them, people to know this is their lifeline of living Dharma every day. It's not necessarily when you're counting the mantras. That's not necessarily Dharma, If you're not remembering that everything is impermanent and everything is unsatisfactory, if you expect them to be permanent, no matter how many mantras you say, isn't it just shining, making your mala shine? That's about it. Even if we're counting mantras, but we got to remember these teachings, then we are truly awakening. See, that's why the delusion is so difficult. They're so afflictive that we don't know that. Excessive desire will experience the meditative obstacles of dullness. Yeah, this is what I'm talking. Like say, dullness that we experience in meditation is actually due to excessive desire. And then they manifest psychophysically in form of dullness. And they say people who don't have a lot of craving, they have renounce everything, they really want simple in the case, they don't feel dull. Because they are not dulled by their cravings. And when they have a lot of unfulfilled wishes, then senses become very dull. The senses doesn't become bright and sharp. And so the dullness is therefore a sign of desire. And when the meditator progress, they actually have less dullness, more contentment. They have more contentment, and when there's more contentment, then they don't experience that much dullness. So non-diluted desire might be a wish to learn Dharma better to eradicate the defilements, but this desire requires effort and consciousness, while the ordinary common variety arrives without effort or consciousness. Ordinary desire is effortless. The desire to practice, desire to be diligent, desire to be disciplined with a session or meditation or quality of it. Those desires are still a recommended desire, but these are wholesome desires to benefit others, like wishing to benefit others, wishing to attain enlightenment is a form of desire, but they're not deluded desire. So another thing is the desire is desirous attachment. Usually are three. Desirous attachment to past object. People are attached to past object. They don't have the object at all now, but they're just still in the past, but still lacking ability to let go and not being able to accept impermanence, still longing, missing, wanting that back. Yeah, the other day, someone texted me, their cat died, Their cat died, and that's a very big loss for them. Of course, to most people, when they have an animal like a cat, it dies like a family member, And their cat died, and their cat died in the car, and they said, "Can you say some prayers?" I said, "Don't move the cat." They said, "Oh, sorry, we are traveling in the car, so the car is moving." I said, "No, I don't mean that kind of movement." So they were happy. At least they were still holding the dead cat one is driving, other is holding in the back. And I said, "Look, you have loved and cared for the cat all these years now. Now, don't bury it straight away tonight, because it might be very bad for the conscience, but maybe put on the bed, say some prayer, light a candle, and then when tomorrow, next day, then you might have a quiet burial." And they say, "We don't want to bury. He's so special cat. He has so many qualities, not replaceable." I said, "Get another kitten." They said, "It's irreplaceable." And then she wrote me back saying, "Rinpoche, this is not really Buddhist, is it? This is not really very Buddhist here. I'm not very Buddhist here." She acknowledged, very attached to the dead cat, and start talking all these qualities, and then feeling very sad and that sort of thing. Desire attachment to past object that now is no longer a cat. It's a non-cat. And if you really are attached to cat, get another cat. It's still a cat, No, that cat of mine with this color. Usually that's the affliction is like that. Affliction, a desirous attachment. Desirous attachment to future object. Then we want particular things in the future. We don't want anything. We want his particular things. Worries, anxiety about things that may or may not get in the future. So people are mainly, anxiety comes from, they want something desirously, and they just think something may go wrong with that, whether it's their children's study or whatever. It's all about not them doing the right thing and we wanting, then we become so affected by that. Desire attached future object. People want to live long, but they're afraid of old age. So that's the example of irony. They want to live long, but they don't want to get old. So it's like saying they want to eat it, but they will not swallow it. Which is very irrational, isn't it? Maybe you can just eat it and just spit it out. You didn't spit it out because you don't want to swallow. It's not called eating, is it? Then desirous desirous attachment, present object. Some things, some object, we think they're still there, you know. It's so deluded. But thing is not the same, you know. Thing is aging. Thing is aging. Thing is, you know, elapsing. It's a use by date. Thing is not really never present, you know. We still attach the thing is, we fear of losing. You don't have to fear of losing. You are losing. So the fact of the matter is thing is not staying same. So you don't have to fear. It's obvious it's not going to stay the same. Look at the pavlova in your hand. Don't fear, it will dissolve. It is dissolving. If you put it in the mouth, it's even dissolved quickly. So what are you going to do with the pavlova? Everything is a pavlova, you know. this little fluffy thing, and it's not. People want to live long, you know. So desire is attached in present object. Fear of losing what we have, which will definitely occur, or even occurring. If you really, there's some momentary mind impermanence. People can see momentarily it's already not staying the same. So why are you fearing losing? You know, you may say you may drop your hair, but you know. Hair already dropping. You may think you may go bald. You're already dropping some from the back. So it's unnecessary worry, you know. When we have too much hair, we want to cut it. When they drop naturally, we want to stop it dropping. So when are you going to decide to be happy? When we have no hair, we want hair. When we want to cut it. So all these desires, just bottomless, you know. It is just infinite desire, infinite problems. So that's the first example, first of the 6 root afflictions. Now the second affliction is anger or hatred. It's usually as a result of unfulfilled desire. Then we have hatred or anger. So that's why the desire is afflictions like chains, you know. They don't realize their anger. They think the anger is independently what somebody did. They don't realize the anger is to do with their desire not being fulfilled. And so the other things are completely secondary. But one thing, they are primary. One's own desire is the one thing that is actually causing the anger to manifest. So that's why if you do not have kindness, then you are susceptible to anger. You need an object to be actually. That's a type. You need an object to be angry with, maybe yourself or another, anyone will do. There's complexity of attachment and aversion together. You know, when you're angry, there's both. This very, very deluded perception. The more agitation there is, that much more there is. There is that much more the person is weakened. Yeah, so if a person is agitated or angry, you can see the person is almost vanishing. They're getting weaker and weaker in their intelligence, their health, their goodness. You know, affliction just consumes the person from within. It's like a disease; it kills you from within. Anger is usually the result of unresolved desires, attachment. That's exactly. So it's not an affliction that is on its own. So that's why they are so interconnected, interdependent. You did not get your way, so you got angry. Yeah, that's right. Reason we got angry is we didn't get what we want, and so we got angry. If you have no particular view, then there is no likelihood of anger arising. So basically, we have specific views. You know, usually they are wrong views. If you have right view, you don't get suffering. If you have a wrong view, they say no view is good view. Buddha said there is no view. The best view is no view. When you have view, every view will clash with some situations. You get opinion clash, they call it. Opinion clash. Sometimes it's good to have no opinion. Just try to see whether other people's opinion could be yours and support that instead. Because your own opinions is just usually a problem maker. Anger is not inherently existing, but is parented by attachment. That's a very important one. Because we usually, when we think we're angry, we think anger. I got valid reason to be angry. They don't realize that parented by their own attachment, own desire, own wishes, own opinions. One is so driven by the desire that one didn't know that it was self-caused. One thing is somebody did it, therefore I got angry. So one doesn't realize excessive of one's own attachment made oneself vulnerable to that. That's what we were talking about, trigger. Other is the only trigger, but we were possessed by desire, and therefore we were susceptible to become angry. Now, anger is met on the way to love. And so anger, nobody goes to with the wish to be angry or hateful to others. Actually, they want to be loving and giving. Like mother angry with son is because she wanted to do all the right things. And people who start to harm themselves usually begin by harming or attempting to harm others first. They first try to help them, love them. Those people who are harming somebody is usually 100% sure that they've been loving them, they've been giving them, they've been showering with gifts. Like people who put a tattoo on the back of their loved one, now they want to move it. They can't remove the tattoo of their ex. So that shows how deluded the deluded people are. And so affliction is very, 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 very debilitating, So hatred is not as constant as desire, So hatred comes and goes. And often we realize it's not right, and we can stop it, and then we suppress it, and then again desire comes, and these two mild desire can be fulfilled. So here are 9 types of anger. These 9 types of anger are very interesting because when you really look at it, you can analyze this analytical meditation and affliction like anger. Firstly, anger towards past events, and anger towards present, anger towards the future. Usually when you're angry about something, is it about a past thing happened in the past? And often it is, So like the anger of being hurt oneself, that what I did or what happened in the past has hurt me. A person is usually angry about some past events concerning oneself. That's the first type. Second type is anger of past events, anger of one's objects of attachment being hurt. Maybe your loved one, maybe your mother, maybe your sister, or maybe your neighbor, or maybe the people you work for got hurt, and therefore it's to do with us and our friends got hurt. So angry about that. No, first is first person. Second is about who your people are. Third is anger of one's enemy being benefited. So exact opposite. Angry because someone is nice to your enemy. So amazing, isn't it? It's like, some people would love that somebody helping others, but when one is angry, we don't want anybody to help him. So deluded, isn't it? So deluded. One moment, someone want to help. If we can help that with somebody, we'd be happy. But when we are overtaken by anger, when somebody helps the person, we don't want them to help them. So this shows how complex the afflictions are, delusions are. And so that's in relation to past or present or future. But usually all about this self, one who's yours, and one who hates you. You hate somebody doing good to them. So these are 9. And another teacher put this into 36 kinds of objects of hatred, because he multiplied that even more. You can actually do that, isn't it? But just question of what variety. Usually it's always about past, present, future. Someone yourself is your property, or your loved one's property, or property of someone you hate. It's all about that, So that's the second affliction. Anger is misunderstood emotion. I read a thesis on the anger by somebody in America, and she calls her thesis anger the ununderstood emotion. still people don't understand it. They think they got a good reason, and they got no very good reason. So it's ununderstood by most people. It's not understood by people who are witnessing your anger, and then they also react badly, and that makes everybody get embroiled in that. I'm exhausted. Don't you think? I don't think we need to go over the rest. You will read it actually. You will read in your time, because those are the three root afflictions. The others, the first two basically, ignorance, arrogance. This list is quite useful. I prepare from Abhidharma text. So they are usually, ignorance, the third one. Fourth one is arrogance. There are 7 types of arrogance. And of course, ignorance got a lot, but here we have just be content with those. And then with the deluded doubt. Fifth one is deluded doubt, because doubt could be good doubt, not deluded ones. But then the deluded doubt is fifth. Sixth one is the deluded view, the wrong views. So with this, we'll conclude here. Dedication of marriage on page 11 and 12. By the merit of this, may we attain the state of all nations, defeat the evil enemies of defilements. May I liberate all sentient beings from the samsara oceans, the traveling ways of birth, old age, the sickness and death. By listening to the precious Mahayana teachings, whatever boundless merit I have acquired, may all sentient beings become precious and stand as vessels to retain the precious Mahayana teachings. Janju Zenju Rinpoche Ma Yeba Na Ye Yeba Nyamba Me Ba Gon May the supreme and precious bodhicitta take birth and not done so. Where it has been born, may it increase abundantly without degeneration. Thank you, everyone.